beginning that everybody knows, but I'll give it a start. I'll give it a start, because even though you tell me a story, I'm really an anthropologist. But I know a fair amount about civil wars instead. Beauregard was certainly a character, for sure. He probably would have been a terrific politician in the year 2017 right now. I think he would manage us rather well. He extraordinarily smart. Grew up down here. He spoke French, only French, until he was 8 years old. Then went to a school in New Orleans, a French school. His mother, which I didn't know, was Italian. So even though he's French girl, his mother was Italian. But both his father and his mother came from aristocratic lineages from Europe, and they were raised that way. I mean, by the time Beauregard was born, Louisiana had just been in the United States for a short period of time, so they really had a strong French connection all the way, and that's the way he was raised. His father sent him to New York City to go to school, which was rather unusual because most of the time he would go to Paris. And he went to a school that was run by two brothers who had been officers with Napoleon. So it was here, when he was in New York, that he started reading a lot about military things. And when he came back to St. Bernard, and talked with his father, he said he went to the West Point. His father, no way he went to the West Point, because that's the American way. You know, that's not what to do. He convinced him to do it. And so he got admission to West Point, and it turned out he was a superb student. He was number 1 and number 2 in class all the way along. When he graduated number 2. What's fascinating about the Civil War, though, is that the West Point groups who went there and ended up being officers and generals in the war that knew each other and were with them all the time. It's just fascinating. You know, they were friends, did all kinds of things. So in his class was William Tecumseh Sherman. So Sherman was in class with Beauregard. He didn't do as well as Beauregard. Beauregard was number 2. I think Sherman was something like 24. Also, his artillery instructor at West Point was Anderson, who was the person at Fort Sumter that he had to start the war with. Again, just how this whole thing played out is highly unusual. He was an engineer, and when he got out, he actually got an assignment up north, Fort McHenry. But he got sick, and so he wanted to come back down south, so he brought him back down south. And so he was here for a long time, doing surveys of the rivers, surveys of the bays, put him in charge of starting to refurbish and restructure a lot of the forts that are all around here, the ones on the Mississippi River, Pike, a whole lot of them he worked on, and did that for a good while. There's one of the stories that I think is kind of an insight to him. When he was at one of the forts doing some work, he asked for some help from another one, sent a messenger, and the person there was lieutenant, said no, he sent a messenger away, so Beauregard was irritated and challenged him. They got into an argument, so Beauregard challenged him to a duel, and they were going to be shotguns, and they got arrested, put in jail. So nothing ever happened with that. But he was always challenging people. I think he could hurt his feelings very well. Quite a bit. He seemed to be rather sensitive with regard to how other people saw him. He had somewhat of an aloofness about him that if you didn't give him the kind of respect that he thought he deserved, he would contact and be very upset with you. He stayed down here for a long time. When he was at West Point, he met Winfield Scott's daughter, and Scott was the top general in the Army when the Civil War broke out, but he was a very old man by that time. And so Beauregard and his daughter got engaged, and supposedly Mom and Dad didn't like it, thought they were too young. So she takes her daughter and goes to Europe for 5 years. He writes to her. She never responds. He gets irritated. He comes down here and meets somebody and gets married. And then Mother came back from France while they were in France. And the girl, Virginia, whose name she converted to Catholicism, came back to New Orleans. She went to a convent. And she died at an early age, but she called for Beauregard and came to visit her when she was dying. And she expressed her anger at him for writing, but then she learned from her mother that her mother kept all his letters. So he kind of patched things up. It was kind of a sad story there, the way that turned out. The war with Mexico was coming about, and he wanted to get involved with it. So he was allowed to go to Mexico as an engineer. And again, that's where he really met for the first time Robert E. Lee, who was an engineer. And throughout that whole Mexican War campaign, Beauregard was always upset because he didn't feel he got the credit for doing things that he had done. Even though Lee and he were kind of friends, they also, at least with regard towards Lee, I think he felt that they were competitors, which is interesting because when I was at Tulane doing the archival research on Beauregard, there's about 8 files, so I'm going through all these files, and they come up to something that was a piece of paper about this size, pencil written, Charleston, South Carolina, December of 1864, from Beauregard to Jefferson Davis, asking him, would you please get me out of Charleston? I can't serve, the Confederacy like I need to. Please send me to the Western Theater to be in charge of the Army of Tennessee. Do not send me to Northern Virginia. I don't want to go there. So I kind of figured that. So that was a misplaced letter, and of extreme historical importance. So I went to the archivist at Tulane, and I said, this is in the file, just a bunch of crap. And they didn't know that they had it. So there's that little part of me, when you grow up, you get the little devil and the little angel, and the little devil saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, I couldn't do it. I would have donated it to someplace, but that's really a significant letter. The point being in that letter, people always knew that he and Lee had some antagonisms, but this even added to it more to show that he didn't want to go to Virginia, to be with him. At some point now, I think that letter is in a proper place. So, again, looking at his profile, when he and Lee were out on the reconnaissance, they were coming back to camp, and one of the guards yelled out, who goes there? But before they could answer, he shot, and he hit Lee and grazed his uniform. But the author who wrote this is saying, but it shows how each one was different, because when he says, who goes there? Beauregard says, officers, and Lee says, friends. Just the different kinds of personalities, that they were. He was irritated the whole time. He did play some significant parts in victories in Mexico. He truly did. But he never thought he got the recognition that he should have. Lee, one time he did 90% of the work, but he got sick. And he had to be in bed for a while. Lee finished it up. Lee got all the credit. It just irritated the hell out of him, So that's the kind of the way he lives. When the war was over, again, he and Lee come back to New Orleans, because Lee came back to New Orleans, even though Mark Morial thinks Lee was never in New Orleans, but he was in New Orleans. Pardon? Oh, I know he's here before the war, but that was just one good example there. He comes back to New Orleans and goes back to his job as engineer. And one of the things he wanted to do, and he was allowed to do, was be the superintendent engineer for the city. And the custom house was being built and was sinking. At that time, today the Pentagon is the largest office building in the country, maybe in the world. Well, the custom house in New Orleans had more square footage than any building in the world at this time, well, at least in the United States. And it was sinking, so he spent a lot of time trying to work on that, trying to get it fixed. One of the things I didn't know until I was getting prepared for this was that he ran for mayor. I didn't know that. Anybody here know he ran for mayor? He ran for mayor of New Orleans. He lost, simply because he didn't seem to be organized. But so once again, it just makes me think of my friend Mark Morial. The guy ran for your job. He was here, the whole time, and he lost. So that was his first entry into politics. That didn't work out. So he goes back and he's still involved with doing various kinds of engineering, for this region. And then he learned that there was an opening at West Point. The superintendent wasn't there. So he tried to use whatever connections he could. Slidell was somebody related to him, and so Slidell put in word for him to try to be the superintendent. And actually gave it to him. Actually gave him the job as superintendent at West Point. When he got the job as superintendent at West Point, the Louisiana legislature was meeting to secede. So he goes to West Point, and he moves in, and 2 days later, Louisiana secedes. And so then he's told he has to leave. And he wasn't happy about that because the war hadn't started. So I think he has the record for being the shortest term superintendent at West Point, I think 6 days. And the best thing about it is, though, when he left from New York and he came back to New Orleans, he submitted a bill to the government to be reimbursed for his travel. And they didn't respond. So even after the war started, he submitted his bill to be to get reimbursed for coming down. So he comes back to New Orleans, and I lived in Virginia a good part, but also went to college in North Carolina. So Braxton Bragg from North Carolina. So I knew about Bragg. I knew about some Louisiana connections, but Braxton Bragg moved to Louisiana, bought a plantation here. And when the state seceded, the governor gave him the job as being the general for the Louisiana militia. So once again, PGT was not happy that he was overlooked. And he was so angry, he joined some group in Orleans Brigade or something as private, just to, like, take that, kind of thing. But then, when the South seceded totally, and the headquarters was set up in Montgomery, he wrote to Jefferson Davis, who he'd met before, and asked if he might serve in the Confederate Army. So Davis asked him to come to Montgomery, and he did. And so through that interview, Davis thought, this is the best person I could possibly get. Knows the forts, he's an engineer, he's been in war in Mexico, and so he put him in charge of protecting the city of Charleston. And Bragg thought that he was going to be in charge of the general of the entire Confederacy, so he was upset with that, but it didn't turn out to be that way. So Beauregard ends up in Charleston, and if there was ever a city in 1860 that was perfect for Beauregard, it was Charleston. That's where all the aristocrats are, living on Battery Drive and everything, so he just fit right in, and they loved him there, and he was happy with them. So he starts putting defenses together, and of course it's his old professor from West Point that's out there in Sumter. And they met each other a few times and talked. And, not to belabor what happened in Sumter, but they were being starved out. That was the plan, but then Lincoln was going to send a ship to bring more food and water to them. And Beauregard knew that if they did that, they would stay there another 3 months, so they stopped the ship from coming. And so because the ship was coming, they started bombarding Fort Sumter. Actually fired almost 3,000 cannonballs, which is, these numbers blow me away, 3,000 of them. And so finally, Anderson decides he's going to surrender. So Beauregard sends out a boat to give him, about surrendering. It seems that there was another person on the side island who had some brevet position, so on his own he went over there. And then the third boat came that Beauregard forgot to tell him something else. So, first guy gets there with no authority, and he talks to Anderson and says, about surrendering, whatever conditions you want. Whatever you want. Well, I could do this and this. He said, sure. I can salute the American flag with it, sure. So I said, great, he leaves. Then the second boat comes in, and the guy approached Anderson and he said, I already surrendered. What is this? He said, I don't know who you surrendered, I just came from Beauregard. He said, well, I can agree to all those things, but not surrender the flags, but I'll have to find out. So he leaves. Then the third boat comes. He said, I surrendered twice, now it's the third time. So it's kind of a comical thing. But in the end, Beauregard agreed to it all, and they allowed him to leave. So then the Civil War starts, and all kinds of things go on. So what I thought I would do, a little bit different, it's normally not my style, but the stuff I've been doing on the Lost Cause brought me back to reading a lot of old manuscripts and books and things. So this is the federal government put out several volumes of the War of Rebellion in the 1860s all the way up into the 1870s. And so volume 1, what they did was they assembled letters, correspondence, speeches, and all kinds of things. So I thought, since he's a native here, and to hear his actual words, just some of the things he was saying back and forth, reporting what was going on. So if you bear with me, I'll just read this, and if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, then we'll change that. So Beauregard writes to Army headquarters, Sir, the government of the Confederate States has hitherto forborne from any hostile demonstration against Fort Sumter in the hope that the government of the United States, with a view to the amicable adjustment of all questions between the two governments and to avert the calamities of war, would voluntarily evacuate. There was reason one time to believe that such would be the course pursued by the government of the United States. Under that impression, my government has refrained from making any demand for the surrender of the fort. But the Confederate States could no longer delay assuming actual possession of a fortification commanding the entrance of one of their harbors and necessary to the defense of its security. I am ordered by the government of the Confederate States to demand evacuation of Fort Sumter. My aides, Colonel Chestnut and Captain Lee, are authorized to make such demand with you. All proper facilities will be afforded for the removal of yourself and command together with the Army and property and all private property to any post in the United States which you may select. The flag which you have upheld so long with so much fortitude under the most trying circumstances may be saluted by you on taking it down. Colonel Chestnut, Captain Lee will, for a reasonable time, await your answer. I am respectfully your obedient servant, G.T. Beauregard, Brigadier General Commander. Now, I always say those aren't these things, but I don't have students at Tulane that really write that well. That was kind of a joke, but it's really kind of true. All right, April 17th. Sir, I have the honor to transmit by Colonel Pryor, one of my aides, who, like the others, was quite indefatigable and fearless in conveying my orders in an open note from these headquarters to the batteries during the bombardment, and general report of the attack of the 12th incident on Fort Sumter. This report would have been sent sooner if my other pressing duties had permitted me to devote my time while the presence of the enemy's fleet still led us to expect an attack along the coast at any moment. A more detailed account will be sent forward as soon as the returns of the commanders and the batteries have reached his office. The great difficulty I will labor under will be to do full justice to all when so much zeal, energy, and gallantry were displayed by officers and soldiers in the execution of my orders. I wish, however, to record two instances which will illustrate the feelings that animated all here. Whilst the barracks in Fort Sumter were in a blaze and the interior of the work appeared untenable from the heat and from the fire of our batteries, at about which period I sent 3 of my aides from the Confederate Army across the water to go there and say, "Do you need some help putting out the fire?" Whenever the guns at Fort Sumter would fire upon Fort Moultrie, the men occupying Cummings Point batteries, and each shot would cheer Anderson for his gallantry, although themselves so fired upon him. And on the 15th instant, he left the harbor on the steamer Isabel. The soldiers of the batteries on Cummings Point lined the beach, silent with their heads uncovered, while Anderson and his command passed before them, and expressions of scorn at the apparent cowardice of the fleet in not attempting to rescue so gallant an officer in his command were upon the lips of all. So he's surrendered, he's leaving, and the federal ships are out there and they won't help him. So I guess the troops, the Confederate troops, didn't think that was very kind. With such material for an army and properly disciplined, I would consider myself almost invincible against any forces not too greatly superior. The fire of those barracks was only put out on the 15th instant p.m. after great executions by the gallant fire companies of this city, who were at their pumps day and night, although aware that close by them was a magazine filled with 30,000 pounds of gunpowder, with a shot hole through the wall of its engine. I'm now removing the tottering walls of the building within and clearing away all the rubbish. In 1 or 2 days, I'll send you the photographs taken at different points of sight from which you clearly understand the condition of the fort in which the first occupied last. I have the honor to be, very respectfully, your obedient servant. That was to the Secretary of War, and I'll do one more. Or maybe not. Okay, good. Sir, I have the honor to submit the following summary statement on the circumstances of the surrender of Fort Sumter. On refusal of Major Anderson to engage in compliance with my demand to designate the time he would evacuate Fort Sumter and to agree meanwhile not to use his guns against us at 3:20 o'clock in the morning of the 12th incident, I gave him formal notice that within 1 hour my batteries would open up on him. In consequence of some circumstances of the delay, the bombardment was not begun precisely at the appointed moment at 4:30. The signal gun was fired within 20 minutes, all our batteries were full. There was no response from Fort Sumter until about 7 o'clock when the first shot from the enemy discharged against our batteries. By 8 o'clock, the action became general, and throughout the day was maintained with spirit on both sides. Our guns were served with skill and energy. The effort was visible in the impressions made from the walls of Fort Sumter. From our mortar batteries, shells were thrown with such precision and rapidity that it soon became impossible for the enemy to employ his guns, which several were dismounted. The engagement was continued without circumstances until nightfall, at which time the fire from Fort Sumter had evidently slackened. Operations on our side were sustained throughout the night. On the morning of the 13th, the action was prosecuted with renewed vigor. About 7:30, it was discovered our shells had set fire to the barracks in the fort. Speedily, volumes of smoke indicated extensive conflagration and apprehending some terrible calamity to the garrison. I immediately dispatched an offer of assistance to Major Anderson, which, however, with grateful acknowledgments, he declined. Meanwhile, being informed about 2 o'clock that a white flag was displayed at Sumter, I dispatched 2 of my aides, Major Anderson, in terms of evacuation, in recognition of the gallantry exhibited by the garrison on cheering victory on the surrendering fort to the commanders. By 8 o'clock, the terms of evacuation were accepted. Major Anderson, having expressed his desire to communicate with the United States vessels off in the harbor, with a view to arrange for the transportation of his command to some port in the United States, one of his officers, accompanied by Captain Hartsey and 3 of my aides, were permitted to visit the officer in command of the squadron to make provisions for that object. Because of an unavoidable delay, the formal transfer of the fort to our possession did not take place until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At that hour, the place having been evacuated by the United States garrison, our troops occupied it, and the Confederate flag was hoisted on the ramparts of Sumter with a salute from the nearest batteries. The steamer Isabel, having been placed at the service of Major Anderson and his command, were transferred to the United States vessels off the harbor. The urgency of immediate engagements prevents me from giving at present a more circumstantial narrative of the incidents connected with the capture. When reports from the various commanders received, I'll forward those to your account. Anyway, it's fascinating to read firsthand, the kinds of things people said, going back and forth. Of course, when he left Fort Sumter, he used to go up to the Bull Run, and who was faced with one of his fellow officers from West Point. So first of all, he goes up against his teacher, and then the first battle, the major battle outside of Washington, D.C., he faces one of his colleagues that was in his class, and it goes on to war. Fast forward to New Orleans. He comes back to New Orleans. He does various jobs. As we know, he was director of the lottery. I don't know if it was any better back then than it is now. But the thing that I honed in on more than anything else, because again, I didn't follow Beauregard's life to that extent. But when he got involved in politics, and of course when I say this to people, it's always just self-serving. Okay, well, that would be true probably for most politicians. They formed a new political party in Louisiana, and their platform, which Beauregard was #2 on endorsed, was that there would be no more segregation on any public transportation. So on streetcars, on trains, and on steamboats, couldn't separate blacks from whites. In the education system, in the school systems in Orange Parish and throughout the state of Louisiana, could not separate blacks from white, full immigration. And a third one was, which Orleans Parish still tries to do today, that they were going to force employers to hire a certain percent of blacks on any construction jobs that they had. So the things that he presented in I think it was 78, might have been 72, the United States government didn't approve until 1962, the Civil Rights Act. It was that far ahead. And going down to taking down monuments, one size doesn't fit all. Everybody has a different story. And his story as a native son, as somebody that worked on the mint and the customs house, who had a platform for total integration in the school system and on public transportation, deserves some credit. Maybe just a little plaque or something out there. I tried, notwithstanding a lot of information the other way, I can't find one instance anywhere that he ever purchased or sold a slave, ever. He was in the military his whole life. His wife had slaves, his father had slaves. He never purchased nor sold one, notwithstanding in federal court now. Some groups submitted now because whatever. A brief, that he had, and that really wasn't true. When he put that platform forward, he got trashed throughout the South. Dallas, Montgomery, Birmingham, Richmond newspapers just leveled him with how could you do this? And he wrote a response. The response is fantastic to all those papers. And they published it, saying, you know, these are human beings we're talking about. You know, I mean, this is where we are anymore. Again, his writings back then, we didn't accomplish almost for 100 years later. And people would take the time to learn that. He really was a special person. The other thing probably is probably the most famous American Creole, period. Period. So there's all kinds of reasons, you know, for honoring him. It's really been hard to find it out, but it's, that's my limited knowledge of Beauregard. I know I didn't take an hour, so you're going to be having some stuff time to take. I've got more here, but I promise I won't read any more about that. But I'll answer some questions.
Questions?
Huh?
Not so much a question, but following along the line of what you said tonight. After the war, Beauregard got involved with what was then called the Carrollton Railway, which today we call the streetcars. And he actually recovered a bankrupt company, laid new rails, and put the actual railway on a plan for economic future. We wouldn't have the trolley cars today if it wouldn't have been for General Beauregard. He then moved on to the Northern Railroad that ran up through Jackson to Chicago, which ultimately is going to become the Illinois Central Railroad. If he doesn't get involved with it in the same process, it kind of shows his engineering ability. We don't have Arlo Guthrie singing the train to call the city that he wants. So there's many things about Beauregard that we've never brought out about why we would honor him in the city that he wants.
Nobody cared. That's why nobody cared. You know, truly, the man was obviously a brilliant tactician, but a brilliant engineer. You know, he did a lot more for the Mexican War victories than anybody gives him credit for. With regard to doing the reconnaissance, as part of the engineering training, wanted to look at topography and all kinds of things. You know, so it was one of the reasons they sent out engineers on reconnaissance was for that reason alone. It's just his issue was his ego so much. You know, he just couldn't say enough nice things about him. And Jefferson Davis was the kind of person that was always patting you on the back. You know, it just wasn't happening. He was always looking for more. But he always got sent, because of his ego, I was in Charleston, over here in Florida, Western Theater, you know, different kinds of things. But early on, you know, what he did in Charleston was fantastic. And when he came back to protect the city, you know, he protected the city. I mean, Charleston just didn't fall. I forgot when he was appointed to West Point, before he left, Sherman was president of LSU, and Sherman came down to New Orleans to talk to him for a while, because his two sons were at LSU, and so Sherman was coming to New Orleans, and so I'll see my old friend, you know, Pierre, and talking to him about what's going on with his sons, and then he had to leave because he was going to West Point. You get these people just like this, you know, together.
Do you know Confederate General Jubal?
Mm-hmm.
Him and Jubal for 15 years at the end were head of the Louisiana Lottery.
They were together at West Point too. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
West Point back in those days was like Yale University. You go look at all the last presidents. If you're president of the United States and you went to Yale, your fraternity brothers, people in class become cabinet members. I mean, seriously. Yeah. Huh? Right, but it was really true. Back then, West Point, you know, if you went to West Point, you just knew everybody that was ever going to be anybody in the military.
It's like New Orleans and Jefferson Davis. If he had such antagonists between the two of them, you would listen to him in New Orleans but not to follow him.
They allowed him to finish the forts too. Of course, that's all the problem. The forts needed to be finished. There's all kinds of yes out there, huh? Anybody else? Well, listen, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being coming. You can't leave because he's got more stuff to do. And you may all, if I could, you may all, I've got this too, you know, because our goal is not to go to court, but we go to court, we're going to go in the fundraising business because we've spent all of our money, which is $17,000 we spent so far to get everything filed. But hopefully we're not doing more. But if we do, we're going to file the fundraising. And this Paula Stewart told me she's got a commitment from the 610 Stompers to go to a rock and roll show, so maybe we can do something like that. You get 610 Stompers in here. Yeah, all right, thank you